Yeah, welcome back, and I hope you're enjoying this session on Python. This is our second chapter, and I hope it's very easy so far. And in this lesson, we'll be talking about numbers. We'll learn about the type of numbers in Python. We'll learn about basic arithmetic operations that we can perform, and we'll also understand how object assignment is done in Python. So let's get started with some hands-on. And Python also, before we get to that, Python has various types of numbers. Let me spend a moment here explaining the different type of numbers. We'll mainly focus on integers and floating point numbers, which are very important for if you are taking any path in the route of data analytics or data science, machine learning, AI, and so on. So integers are just whole numbers. They are either positive or they are negative. For example, 2 and -2 are examples of integers. Floating point numbers in Python are notable because they have a decimal point in them. Or use an exponential, we call it e. We'll see how that is used or to define the number. For example, 2.1, 3.4, anything with a decimal are floating point numbers. So also 4e2, which is a exponential of 4 times 10 to the power of 2, which is written 4e2, is also an example of a floating point number in Python. So throughout this particular course, we will be mainly working with strings or simple float numbers, which we can see a lot of examples. So I'm going to talk about numbers more in detail. We'll keep visiting back as we cannot do it without numbers. So let's jump right into some hands-on numbers and see how it works. Great. Now I have my Jupyter notebook open, and I'm going to perform some simple basic arithmetic operations, like let's say 2 plus 1, and see it returns a simple 3, and I do a subtraction. It returns you a subtraction. Very simple, very straightforward. Nothing you have to worry about putting in any more semicolons or anything. It is so simple. And I divided 3 by 2. I multiply 4 times any number, let's say 4 times 9, and it gets you 36, and so on. So that's how numbers work. But we could also do something where we can use Python to do something more. Let's say what I thought if I have to do 2 times 2 to the power of 3 or 2 cube. So it's very simple. I use 2 star and then I do this. So it's 2 times 3 is 8. We could also do square roots this way. For example, I can do this 2 to the power of 0.5, let's say, or let's make it something even more easy. So square root of 4 is 2, and this is there. Then another important part of Python is that it follows order of operations. So it always prioritizes multiplication over addition, division over subtraction, and so on. So let's see an example. So I'm going to do 2 plus let's say 4 plus 10 multiplied by 10 plus 5, and what do you think the result could be? So it's 109 because it's multiplying first and then doing the addition. So it's 10 times 10 is 100, 100 plus 5 is 105, and plus 4 is 109. So that's how it works. In cases like this, we can use parentheses, very simple and straightforward. So I'll do the same thing inside of parentheses, and you can see that it is completely handled differently. You'll get a completely different result. So be careful when you actually use multiplications and so on. Great. So this is very simple about numbers, and let's try something where we can assign names and create variables. So we use equal sign to assign labels to variables. We'll do assignment operations explicitly in more detail as we go, but for now let's just do a simple assignment by equals, and I will assign a value of 5. Now I can call my Python script, and this will treat in the number 5. So I'm going to say, so if I say print a, just like we used to print a string, this is holding the value of 5. Now I can do a plus a, and this will return 10. What happens on reassignment? I take a and I assign it 10, and I print A is 10. So I can do A is equal to A plus A. For now A value is 10, so I do A plus A, it should return 20. So I'm going to print A, it returns 20. So it's that simple that we can assign values, but there are certain things, there are certain Python rules that we should know, and especially when we're doing an assignment. So while doing an assignment, you cannot have names that can start with a number. So I cannot assign 4A is equal to 5. This is not possible. This is not allowed. This is not like high school maths that you can try to assign something. This has to be a name. Only then it is acceptable. There cannot be no spaces. I cannot have A and I cannot have A space B is equal to 5. Let me leave it as it is. And this is not possible. So, and you cannot use any type of symbols that are on the keyboard, on the numeric pad out there for you. Any of these symbols are not allowed. I'm going to just put all of them here. None of these symbols are allowed. So it's considered best practice. There is something called as PEP 8 standard. I'll leave them as it is. PEP 8 is a standard like that defines or controls that names are there, and it is also considered that your variable names are lowercase. It's not that you cannot assign capital cases, but it's important that we stick to the standard, and so that our code runs reliably and we don't make any mistakes. So let's all follow the standard that is being defined by Python. Do look it up. Look for PEP 8 Python in Google and you'll find the documentation for the Python version you're using. And now that we have learned so much about numbers and arithmetic operations and also assigning variables, let's quickly build something that's fun and let's make it more interesting. Let's say I want to build a calculator that tells me how much I need to pay tax in the simplest way possible. So let's say I make $100 and my government charges 10%, wherever the country I'm in charges 10% of my tax, and I need I'm really bad at math, let's say. Maybe I don't know, but let's say I'm bad at math and I need this calculator to every time tell me, depending upon what input I give in about my income and the interest rate, it should calculate and give me the tax I owe the government. So I'm going to say, so let's start with the first one. Let's say I mentioned my income is $100, right? So I'm going to say my income. I use underscore. Note I cannot use a space. So when I come across words which 2-letter words or 3-letter words, I use an underscore and then I assign a value of 100. And then I also mentioned that my tax rate is 100%. So I'll put this as, I can put it as 100%, but this is not acceptable. So what is a percent? When you say percent, it is per 100. So what is 10%? It is 10 divided by 100, which is 0.1. So I'll put 0.1. Now I need something that calculates my taxes is equal to my income multiplied by tax underscore rate. If I put 100, I would do it differently, but since it's already divided, I would put it as 10 divided by 100. My income multiplied by 10 divided by 100 would return the right result, but since already I have put 0.1, I can simply multiply it by this. And let's see what the output will be if I print or just call my taxes. This should tell me what I should pay, and I should be paying okay, I have done an error. So I hope you notice what is the error that I put. I have put 2 stars. So this is something we all make. It's completely normal to make errors, so that even experts, even experienced are making errors. So you don't beat yourself up if you run into making a syntax error, just like I did. And now it should return the error as I pay $10 to the government. So what have we learned? We've learned some basics of numbers in Python. We also learned how to do arithmetic and use Python as a basic calculator. We then wrapped it up with learning about variable assignments in Python. So that's great. Let's go about learning more on what our